Hey everybody, Shane, Chris, rock on.
Howdy, howdy.
Well, okay, so we really wanted to kind of start off with. There's been a lot of excitement about PowerShell, and specifically about the PowerShell step. What we want to do is now actually show you some kind of real world examples, not just hello world. Some real world examples of where you might, some useful examples of where you might want to use PowerShell, and then I think, Chris, you're also going to talk about this is how you could do it in a command step. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, I'm an old school batch guy. I still love CMD.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a learning curve for all of us. But I love that I know how to do it there. That there's limitations. I particularly dislike the string manipulation in CMD. Yeah. So maybe show us a couple of ways you would do it there. I think that's what you were thinking of doing. But let's talk about PowerShell as it applies to a sysadmin in PDQ Deploy. How's that sound?
Sweet.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on over. I'm going to scoot this over here, and I'm going to drink scotch and watch Chris and laugh.
Wait, that's like every day. Okay,
you just got a glimpse into our office. We just stand outside Chris's office and point and laugh.
I'm on display. Yay. All right, so PowerShell is awesome. Let's just state the facts. We know this. You know this. You're a command guy. It's cool. Mm-hmm. I'm okay.
I've been waiting for it to take off. I mean, it was introduced years and years ago, and it's slowly been gaining traction. Yeah. But honestly, in the last year, 2 years, I've really seen a big explosion in admins who are saying, "All right, it's time to make the move."
Yeah, which is great. I mean, PowerShell is almost 10 years old at this point, so there's a lot of maturity to it. We're on version 5. Windows 10 by default ships with version 5, and you can put it back all the way on Windows 7. Mm-hmm. A lot of good improvements with the desired state configuration. For those who are familiar with things like Chef and Puppet, it's a similar way to kind of set up your servers. It's really powerful. You should check it out if you haven't already. Other stuff are native classes in PowerShell, so it's actually leaning more towards fully object-oriented stuff. So you can actually create classes and instantiate stuff.
That's been their goal the
overload.
Whole time. That's been their goal the whole time.
Yeah, they'll get
Hey, actually, you want to show, we do have a package that due to popular demand, we have a package out in the package library for installing PowerShell 5. It does require Windows 7 or 8.1. This can install on server 2008 R2, but we did not, and 2012, and 2012 R2. We did not make this package. We removed the servers from the conditions. You can add them if you want, but there's just some known issues with installing the WMF on certain server configurations. So we just said, we'll just
cough exchange cough.
Yes. So anyway, we've got two packages. There's PowerShell WMF and then PowerShell with reboot. Yep. It does require a reboot in order to even detect that the new PowerShell is there. So if you install without the reboot and do a scan after on the PDQ inventory, or SCCM or whatever inventory utility you'll use, you will still see PowerShell, whatever the previous version was, 2, 3, or 4. It does require a reboot, just so you know. That's why we did throw the reboot in there. The reboot package, if you want to use that, does give a 3-minute warning to users saying, "Hey, we're going to shut down. You might want to take care of all that," as Seinfeld would say. Go ahead.
It's a good middle ground for the full contact IT.
Yeah, it is.
All right, but yes, let's get PowerShell installed. I mean, we're not going to do it here because it does take a little bit of time, but please update your PowerShell, use it. I do recommend PowerShell 5 because of all the fancy features that are in there. Okay, moving on. We have...
May I interject? Just so you know, if you have 8.1 targets, they come with 4.
Yes.
And you're 4, we recommend 5, but 4 is great. What you really want to do is those Windows 7 that come with PowerShell 2, get those guys upgraded.
Yep.
Sorry.
Good point, though.
Oh, we have a question? Okay.
Cool.
Yes, let's kick off the questions this morning with the fabulous Nate B., also known as Nate Dog. Is it worth upgrading all my clients to Windows 10 for PS5? Any new features worth using?
Okay, Nate, are you saying to upgrade your clients to Windows 10 or to version 5 of PowerShell? Those are two completely different questions. I think it's worth it for PowerShell 5. Like I said, there's not as huge of a jump from PowerShell 4 to 5 as there would be in your native Windows 7, which is PowerShell 2. Massive jump in features. So to answer your question, the first one, that's up to you. That's up to your environment. Do you want to support Windows 10? Do you want to have, one OS, etc.? As far as PowerShell 5, yes. And in the coming months, you're going to start seeing more packages in the package library that utilize PowerShell. And we're not necessarily going to test these against PowerShell 2.
I think the question is, does he need Windows 10 to run PowerShell 5?
No, you do not. You need at least Windows 7. Thank you, JJ.
Yep.
JJ is my interpreter.
We pretend to speak. I'm actually being translated on the fly. So, all right, jumping into this, common tasks for administrators, right? We've all been there. We've all written batch files or copied them off the internet. With those, there's a lot of tasks that we like to do, such as clearing event logs, creating scheduled tasks, querying the registry, adding registry keys, deleting registry keys, doing all the fancy stuff that makes you feel like a system administrator. On that line, I decided to kind of do a comparison, some simple examples of how you do this in batch, and how you do it in PowerShell. And side note, do it in PowerShell. So let's just jump. I'm going to jump around here just because I have a order that I like.
Cool.
So first we have event logs. These are going to be for clearing event logs. Oh, yes, I'm moving things because that's what I do.
Habit.
So this is the command step. So this is not using PowerShell. This is using CMD.
Correct. So at this point, there is a built-in program in I forget which version of Windows. It's been there for a long time, called WevTutil, Windows Event Utility. With that, you can actually clear, you can query, you can register and unregister event logs from the main.
Go ahead and minimize that deploy. Is that what you said, minimize deploy?
Trying to get that centered again.
Okay, so we're just trying to get stuff lined up here. How's that? Okay, sweet. Awesome. So this utility, it can clear logs. That's actually what CL stands for. WevTutil clear log application. That'll clear the application log. Pretty straightforward, pretty useful. You can also do multiple logs by creating a for loop in batch. And for those who are kind of gun shy with command line, this is a little bit advanced to be able to throw together a for loop in batch. So I completely understand if you're like, oh, whoa, hold off. Because
slow down there, egghead.
Yes.
We have here a simple square. Slow down, egghead.
Whoa. All right, so this is the basic way how to do it in command. Here's how to do the equivalent. So here's the single one, how you can do that in PowerShell. We actually have a native commandlet in PowerShell to remove one or multiple logs at the same time with one command called clear event log.
And by the way, notice, for those of you who are just starting, the pound or hash, that is a comment. In CMD, it would be REM for remark.
Yep.
This is pound is your comment.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes.
I probably wouldn't have mentioned that.
Oh, let's
that's
try
right.
that.
Oh, this is beautiful. This is great. Okay, so the clear event log here. Oh, that's fun. That'll actually go through and clear those two event logs, application and system. It will not give you a warning unless you explicitly add a parameter that says, give me a warning, which in this case would be as simple as dash confirm. And I'm not typing there, am I? Cool. Confirm. That'll actually pop up a warning for you, which is actually somewhat counterintuitive, but that's
generally try to stay away from, when you're running, same rules apply. When you're running something on remote targets, try to keep it somewhat quiet.
Yeah. No announcements, unless you want to, I guess, for whatever.
So that was much easier. If you look at that, step 2, which was the for,
yes.
You happen to do a for loop. Granted, it was a fairly simple one, but just to clear multiple within PowerShell was much easier.
Yes, and it's much more clear. I mean, they both have for constructs. You can actually do these loops in batch and in PowerShell. The advantage you have in PowerShell is first, it's object-oriented. It's not string-based. You don't have to do the string manipulation we've talked about, which is fun. Here, you can actually take them as objects. So in here, we actually have the get event log. That actually lists every single event log that's registered with your system, and then it actually will loop through them and say, hey, clear each one. It's as simple as that. It's very, very clear, very concise. You can read this. You can hand it off to someone who could read this, and it's very straightforward. You don't have to actually worry about doing too many comments to clarify because it's kind of clear already. So that's
Okay, go ahead.
Sure.
Got a great question from Cap City, which is a great place to visit, by the way. Wonderful burgers there. Can I upgrade from PS2 to PS5 in Windows 7, or do I need to install PS3, then PS4, then PS5?
You can go straight from 2 to 5. And that's one of the reasons why we didn't include in the package library, a PowerShell package for 4 and for 3. Just go to 5. Yeah, honestly, and you can go straight from 2 to 5, not a problem. Once again, regardless of whether you're going from 2 to 5 or 4 to 5, you do need to have a reboot in order to have that take effect.
Yep. And then you'll have all the powers of PowerShell 5 and 4 and 3 and 2. Amazing how that works. So here's this package. It's very simple, straightforward. We could actually deploy it, but it just kind of shows you.
Well, let's do it. No, let's do it. Let's do it. So I'm going to open it. JJ, I'm going to do this. We've got, we're on Guinness. So I'm going to quickly open the event log for Guinness. There's 5,394 in application. All right. Present.
Well, do we want to just do the PowerShell ones or the ones?
Go ahead and comment out. In fact, this is a good one. This is how you disable steps in PDQ Deploy.
So in this case, we will disable these guys. And then we're not going to do every event log. We just want to do the application logs. We'll just modify this one just to use application.
Okay.
Just like that. And then we'll deploy this on Guinness.
Yes, we will.
If I can spell, which is give or take.
You still can't. There's 2 N's.
Oh, 2 N's, see?
Hey, Lex, how's it going?
Hi. Reincarnation of sorts.
You don't drink
Chris
Guinness.
knows his beer.
It's not spelled corgi.
Or
It's not spelled corgi.
So here, there's really no output from PowerShell. If you did it, congratulations. It doesn't need to tell you that you did it because it worked. It's not going to be verbose unless you tell it to be verbose.
Okay, so let's go ahead and check out this. We'll hit F5. There it is. It's cleared. Well done.
So
all right. So let's move on to the next example.
Score one.
Unless we have any other questions. Yes, you have Chris here. Chris lives and breathes PowerShell. So if you have a question, not only does he live and breathe, he's actually an excellent sysadmin. So it's like, he knows PowerShell, but he knows it in the context as well as what you folks need to use it as. All right,
cool.
New question from Joseph G. Can you cover making PowerShell scripts silent with PDQ Deploy?
You know what? I think a good way to do that is to show the command line that's executed with an install step, because we'll show how we make that silent. You want to do that real quick?
Sure, let's
All right.
open.
So remember, in install step, and this may change in the future, folks, as we've now introduced a native PowerShell, we may break up the install step because it is fairly convoluted. But he's going to create a step, and he's going to point to a PowerShell file out there on the network.
I have many. Ooh.
And the reason we're showing you this is in the install step, we show you the command that's going to be executed, whether you're spreading an MSI, an EXE, a reg, etc. So if you want to zoom in on that, JJ.
I was trying to highlight under it, but I'm terrible at this.
Yes, you are. That's an underline, a very thick underline. Yeah, so the dash non-interactive, what we do is we actually post this as non-interactive. So if you're using an install step and you want the opposite, we've actually had a customer said, I'm using PowerShell to display a really complex message to my end users, to script that he's written that was that they could actually answer and save the results and stuff, but they're not seeing it. Well, in that case, you do what's rare, something that you generally don't necessarily need to do, except in these cases. You select custom, and then you simply remove the non-interactive, and in the options, you deploy either as deploy user interactive or logged on user. Logged on user and deploy user interactive will actually give the service that we're running this deployment as access to a desktop, which allows basically allows you to post any type of GUI that you want to see. after XP and Vista, Microsoft deprecated the ability for a service to interact with a desktop.
Yeah.
So we actually have to do a bunch of different machinations to get this to work. But that's how you would do it. It's a couple-step process. If you run it as deploy user interactive, you're guaranteed that this is going to run in the context of an administrator. Logged on user, if you need access to that user's registry, Hive, etc., but you'll still have access. So those are the two steps. Am I wrong?
No, but that's exactly it. In fact, actually, you can do this in PowerShell step as well.
All right. Now, but I really wanted to show that that is what we're doing. It's the non-interactive.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to close that. No. Go ahead.
So with this, actually, we'll pull up the next example here with Windows features here. Actually, with the PowerShell step, we'll just skip ahead here. It actually shows the command line as well down here, and you can actually remove that non-interactive.
And you do that via custom. Now, once you do custom, there's some limitations. Once you hit custom, there's, especially in the install step, you lose some features. So there are times you need to do it, but for the most part, don't use custom unless you absolutely need to, which means you have to change the default behavior. All right.
Absolutely. So, good to go. Okay. We're going to move on to features, enabling and disabling features using Dism. For those,
these are Windows features.
Yes, Windows features. Dism is a great utility. I'm sure many of you have used it. I know I have over the years, but I have transitioned over to PowerShell.
Cool.
So, this might look familiar to some of you. Here I have just a step here, a command step, that's enabling the Telnet client. It's probably not going to happen very often. I just wanted a short feature name to enable, but you could use this for the RSAT tools, for anything, to be able to deploy them to other administrators. You could actually get this enabled or disabled as you choose. So in this case, we have Dism enabling this Telnet client.
And that's from the command step.
Yep. And disable's the same other than disabling the feature. PowerShell is very similar. We have this enable Windows optional feature. You notice it has the same parameter online, and then the feature name, Telnet client. This one is a great commandlet, especially when you use it with PDQ inventory, because PDQ inventory can show the features.
That's correct. But let's do this. Now, if you don't mind, I'll make this quick. Let's say that you have this package where you want to enable the Telnet client or any other Windows feature. And if you recall, when we're talking about Windows features here, we're talking about going into the application wizard in your control panel, going into turn Windows features on or off. This is what we're talking about. So if you're going to, in this case, add or enable the Telnet client, and you do a scan after, you're going to want to make sure that your scan profile that you're running will scan Windows features. Many of you, kind of a best practice, you've changed it to, to scan with the application scan profile. Unless you change the application scan profile, that will not scan for Windows features. So what you can do per package, say you want to keep applications as your default scan after profile. But in this one, I would go to package properties, that top node, and change the scan after to scan after deployment, not using the default, and then specify an appropriate profile, like standard. Standard does scan for the Windows features. And this way you would be able to see that using PDQ inventory, not only did the deployment work, now you can query in inventory, see that Telnet client's enabled.
Yep. In fact, let's do that. Let's do just that. We're going to disable this Dism because we're done with Dism. We're moving on to PowerShell. So let's go check real quick in inventory.
And disable the disable, otherwise.
Well, right. I just wanted to see if it was enabled or disabled first. So we'll find Guinness here.
Scroll on down.
Are we centered? Okay.
Windows features, and just filter out the filter out the enabled.
Okay.
Or do that.
Telnet.
Okay, so Telnet is not enabled right now. We'd see a checkbox there.
Yep.
Ready?
Let's
make it so, sir.
Let's enable this guy. So just double checking, it is enabled, saved. Let's deploy this to Guinness with 2 N's.
But only 1 S.
Give it time. We'll have it, we'll have it.
Guinness is the knockoff brand.
Uh-oh, an error occurred. Exciting.
37104.
That's ours. Optional. Oh, I think this might have been while we were typing. I think we saved it while modifying it. Something.
Yeah, you got
3. I
step
think
3.
there's an R at the end of it or something. Let's see.
I thought I saved it, but apparently not. Or I thought I deleted that, but I'm not. Windows optional feature, online feature name, telnet client. Well, let's actually go verify that's actually the name of the feature. It might be different between different versions of Windows.
So go back to inventory.
So, because I know in Windows 10, which I was testing this on, things are sometimes
Okay,
different.
so how do you? He's going to click this little button up there in the corner, so we can actually see the name. This is the name that you would actually use in your command.
Telnet client. That is it. That's what I'm using. So, awesome. This is great. That was
Maybe you could also show the help if you need to, and pulling up the syntax for that.
yeah, we'll actually do
But
that.
that does look like it's right.
It does. Let's actually, I want to make sure and actually read what that was saying. I just kind of skimmed over that real quickly.
Enable Windows optional feature is not recognized
Oh,
as the name
that's
of the command.
right, that's right. This is one of the commandments I completely forgot. We can't show this on this guy, on this operating system. I forget.
Oh, 'cause
Some
it's
of the
Windows
commandments, yes, this is Windows 7. Some of the commandments are from Windows 8 onwards. They exist in PowerShell 5, so if you have PowerShell 5 on Windows 7, you might think that they're going to work. They're not.
All right, so
we
we're
can
gonna-
actually deploy this to a Windows 10 machine and it
We
should
will.
work.
We will.
Oh, we can deploy this to Fry.
No, you probably already have it on Friday. Let's just to show only 10. All right, and let's go. Let's piss off Emily.
Yes.
Going to show only enabled and telnet.
Sweet.
I don't see that it's in there. Good deal. So it's not. It's okay. So let's go ahead and do it to oh hi.
Good.
Those of you who like really bad cinema, that is a reference to the movie The Room.
Oh, hi, Corgi.
Oh, hi, PowerShell. It's a horrible movie. There's nothing good about that movie.
I've never seen it.
So here's what you could do in this case. What you would do, if you want to do this, you could say, we're going to enable this. Sorry, we're going to enable the Enable Telnet Client for the CMD, and we're going to change these conditions to just Windows 7. All right?
Yeah.
And then on this one, we're going to change the conditions to, we'll just turn that on, go to Windows 8, pardon me, 8.1 and 10. Right? That's how you could get both of these with the same package to
Right.
Windows 7 and to your Windows 8 and 1 and 10.
This is good on-the-fly troubleshooting skills. So here we go. Notice that it's successful. We'll open up the event out log, and it tells you that it was good. There's no errors, and it tells you that no restart is necessary. So
Now let's go back to oh hi
yes, indeed.
and check out oh hi inventory.
That's
That's Guinness.
yes, with two N's, two S's.
So it's still scanning oh hi after that. We should see the Telnet client get enabled.
There it is.
All right.
Like magic.
Good deal.
Sweet.
Do we have another question? I think I heard someone say a question.
Yes, this is a great PowerShell versus Active Directory question, which is coming to you soon on pay-per-view, by the way. Should I use PowerShell to set, not force, a user's default open with program, or would a group policy be better? Matt H.
This is kind of more of a honestly, I think a best practice. If you want to set something globally and you want to enforce that, make sure it's always set, group policy is the way to go, especially with user level objects. Group policy is great because every time that user logs on, those policies are going to be enforced. With machine levels, kind of the same thing, but you can use PDQ Deploy, especially on the machine level, to set that.
Yeah.
It's kind of up to use. Up to use.
That's right. It's a good just kind of tail end of that. You could actually set it in group policy via PowerShell. So there's a good tie-in. Use the Active Directory modules for that. But it's true.
You got a lot of these. If there's interest out there, some of the more advanced steps that we're really not going to cover, such as integration with Active Directory, such as really going into the registry, being able to work with the registry and WMI. We're actually going to have our own videos and webcasts for those so that we can do a deeper dive, just so you know.
Yep, they get complex really fast.
And Joseph G. would like to ask, PS5 Windows 10 has an execution policy change that prevents security risks from running scripts. How do you bypass this without having to press A, yes to all?
Okay, so this guy, as I recall, upgrading. I seem to remember that upgrading the different WMF versions to get the PowerShell, it would actually override what you had set. Fortunately, in our environment with PDQ Deploy, when you're deploying PowerShell, we actually bypass that already for you, so you don't actually need to explicitly set that on individual machines.
Yes.
We do it at the process level. There's 5 scopes for PowerShell. I can show you that. We can just say, you're curious, you want to know what they are. Execution policy. Let's list them. There they are: machine policy, user policy, process, current user, and local machine. The priority is it goes from top to the bottom, so it'll override it from the top to the bottom. Normally, when you run this, it's the local machine that you're actually running this scope on with this PowerShell window open. We're doing bypass policy, so it actually is 2 levels above that, so it'll actually override what you have set.
And the reason we do that, we could not anticipate what your execution policy was going to be, and especially those of you who had never changed it. By default, scripts are not allowed to run unless you change that. So if you look at the command line, remember we've talked about this before, showing you in both the install step and here, in your details, you see that as part of the default command line for PowerShell, we have an execution policy, execution policy bypass. That means if you do not allow scripts to be run, we're bypassing that because we're already running as administrator. If you're not an administrator on that target machine, you've got bigger problems. You're not going to run. So since we're already administrator and we have the ability to destroy said machine, we may as well make sure that we have a high success rate here. So if you use a PowerShell step, sir, I think his name was Matt, it's resolved. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't set, Joseph, hi Joseph. That doesn't mean you shouldn't set the policy level from group policy or however you want to do that, enterprise-wide. However, when you're using PDQ Deploy, this will bypass that if you have a restrictive one.
Yes, and side note, speaking of setting it in group policy, if you set it in group policy, those are the highest scopes for the execution policy. So if you have it set to restricted at the group policy level, your deployments won't work. Yeah. You need to change that.
That's a very good point. If you really have gone to that level.
Yep.
Well, I think cool. JJ's saying camera 2, so I guess we're done.
All right.
JJ
D-U-N done.
Yeah. just like Guinness.
That's right.
Hey everybody, I hope this helped. We're really looking forward for your feedback because Chris is an excellent resource. We want to tap that brain. And if you guys are finding benefit from this, let us know. And also give us suggestions. We will ignore them promptly.
Yes.
All right.
Starting now.
And 20. I'm Shane.
Chris.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks so much for joining us today, guys. We're our webcast winners for some swag, Cap City and Joseph G. If you will please email me at webcast@adminarsenal.com so I can get you your swag. It's Cap City and Joseph G. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see you guys next Thursday.